Today, we will dive into a subject which I just said to Addie, who's the guest, is like I can geek out a bit on because it's about becoming a better business leader. And to become a great business leader, what I've learned over the years is actually that you need to be able to manage your business on all levels, especially when it comes to finance. You need to understand where the money runs. And it's not about focusing on so much on the bottom line. Bottom line is important, that's the result, but it's really finding out what processes and systems do you have in place actually to control stock, the things that runs through your business in in today's world, a second to second point of view. But let's dive into that conversation and hear what actually, because I know Addie, as the guest today, had like huge amount of experience working with hospitality businesses, putting in these processes through their brilliant technology platform. Welcome to the show, Addie.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So can you talk a bit about, your journey to solve a principle, I would say a big challenge for hospitality business, and even more so in the new era post-pandemic with inflation, food systems that's breaking down, shortages in supply, cost of ingredients exploding, cost of everything exploding. Can you talk a bit about like the journey to build, Growyze, and why you did it, you and your sister, and where you're going with it all?
Absolutely. So first of all, my professional journey is very diverse. I come from a very diverse background, and I originally come from Bulgaria, an Eastern European country. I think we've spoken with you about that. And I came to the UK in 2010 to do my master's in sports and strategic management, which led me a little bit into hospitality. I was working with bars and restaurants and pubs, doing some promotions for them, some sales as well, some marketing. But when I graduated, I decided I didn't really want to go into sports. And I started working with consultancies, helping small to medium to large enterprises get European funding and grants from the EEA and ORA grants, focused on innovation in technology, focused on green projects, blue ocean projects. So this was really, really exciting for me because I could see how you can make impact, whether it's social, whether it's environmental. So this is where I come from, this area of creating impact. But then, this is me. And later on, my sister came into the picture because she was already in London at the year of 2000, really. So that's nearly 25 years ago. She came to London to do her finance degree, and she ended up working, like most of young people would end up working in hospitality behind the bar. She started in a pub called Coopers, I believe, at Waterloo Station. She very quickly climbed up the ladder into management. She then went into a company called Select Service Partners. So she ended up being a loss prevention manager for them. And she often had to go into Marks and Spencer's or Burger King or Upper Crust. She would often go unannounced and understand, like, you were supposed to make this and you've only made this. So where's the gap? You're not making, there's 20K missing, for example. So she would need to explore where the hidden losses were. Would this be supplier errors, admin errors, theft, external or internal, or even wastage? So she was actually called Mind the Gap Lady. And there would always be like, oh, here she comes, my Mind the Gap Lady, which resonates very well with our current customers because they know how important this gap is. Bring it down as much as possible. We know that hospitality operates on very, very, very tiny margins. So it's not only about making money, but how can you prevent losses? How can you prevent your profits? I mean, not prevent losses, but you need to be very careful how you're managing this. And this is where we are coming in. She very quickly transferred this passion onto me. And we know that hospitality is all about building communities, and people are thriving into whether it's a pub or a restaurant. And, especially in the UK, you've got all those pubs where there's a lot of people who go into the pub just to meet other people or build a community. Or imagine if you live in the countryside, this will be the place to go so you can mingle with people and build a more exciting lifestyle. So this is where, my passion comes in as well. And we are not only focused on loss prevention, but then we're bringing my passion into sustainability. How can we prevent food waste, for example? Because we know it's a massive problem in the industry. And this is how, into the end of 2019, we took the decision to create Growyze. And in 2020, we got investment to start building Growyze and focus on how we can solve a massive problem, which is businesses are losing money, and how can we prevent that? How can we catch the hidden losses, as we call this, the silent killer? You are losing money. You need to face it. Don't focus only on making money, but focus on catching the silent killer. So eventually you end up with more money. So that's how we started. And 4 years down the line, we are supporting our customers. We're extremely customer-centric. We've built the whole product entirely driven by our customers. We are solving their needs. We obviously prioritize, but we launched early last year to come to the point where we can say that our product is entirely customer driven. There's no point to have a product that's not solving any challenges or problem.
Yeah.
So that's a very, in a nutshell, that's how we started. Yeah.
It's really interesting, mind the gap, and I think you mentioned it before, and it just like, I was like, was really interesting. What is like, if in the work you're doing, and then we're going to come back to the way it's customer driven, but I really wanted to dive a bit into, you build this platform. I guess you had an idea and still have an assumption. What are the 3 biggest gaps you often see in a hospitality business? What is typical you and your sister, and when you go in and work with customers, or even from the past when your sister was a loss and prevention officer, they can see that, where are they on the P&L, or where are they in the business? You called them the silent killers as well, I guess.
Yeah, so we are very much surprised to see that nowadays businesses are still operating on Excel spreadsheets and pen and paper. And how are you managing an entire operation on a static Excel spreadsheet, first of all?
Yeah.
Are you doing stock takes? How are you doing your stock takes? How many people are actually doing the stock takes when your staff can do more important things? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience and the customer service, which we can talk later about, which the level has drastically dropped at the moment. So in terms of where we are focusing on, the first question we would ask is, how are you doing your stock taking? Because stock taking is something that nobody likes doing. It's a very tedious issue and a tedious task that everyone will be like, oh, I hate it. I really don't like doing it. And this is something that we would go in and say, look, what if we told you that you could speed up the process and you can get John, Michael, Adam, and Adi doing the stock take simultaneously, very quickly, by using barcode scanning, all the data, syncing. You can monitor how much stock you have in different areas. You can see the stock value immediately. And then everyone will be like, oh, this sounds amazing. I mean, you can cut so much of my time doing stock takes, which I really, really hate. And usually we would see 50 to 60% drop in stock taking time. But this is just one area. Then one of our most popular features is catching those hidden losses by ordering. We call it the three-way invoice validation feature. So we are doing a cross-check between ordering, deliveries, and invoices. We do this invoice reconciliation by using our AI smart engine. So we're doing this automatically for our customers. Why do you need to spend money for something that hasn't been delivered? Why do you need to spend money for stock or products that have an increased pricing, but you actually never noticed? Why do you need to do that? And by actually having this feature, we are bridging another gap, which is between operations and accountants. And we are streamlining process because usually the accountants would be like, "Oh, guys, do you have everything delivered?" And there's a lot. Everyone is lost in translation because it's very difficult to monitor this. And by creating those processes, you can order from our platform from suppliers. You can book in deliveries very quickly on your mobile phone, cross-checked with your order, and if there's something missing from your delivery, you can notify the supplier immediately. The suppliers are very easily either not charging, or we would catch this later on in the invoice. So it's a process that is extremely popular with our customers, and they're really loving it because we're saving so much time, not only on the operations team, the accountants, but also we're catching up to 100% discrepancies. It's either price changes. So if, for example, there's a price change of one of the products, you can either reject or accept. Once you accept the price change, it updates across the whole product, across the whole system. So we're really trying to make the whole process very, very simple. But this is one of our USPs, as we call it, simplicity. So it's not only streamlining so many different workflows, but we are also bringing a tool which is okay. It is good for the operations teams because they can see all the data, they can monitor and oversee all the operations. But then you also have a tool which is, as we call it, the best friend of all the staff members. Because, Michael, you're working in the pub, but then 2 months later you decide you don't want to work in the pub. So John comes in, and John needs to pick up another tool because, there are a number of tools that they need to pick up very quickly. And then if you can pick up a tool which is very easy to use, you don't need an extensive training. So this is something that we've tried to keep since we've built Growyze. Keep the simplicity in place, so the whole team can use Growyze and use it on a day-to-day basis. And this is where we're focused on bringing a tool that can help the whole internal operations on a day-to-day basis, and is process-driven. And yeah, it's an exciting journey. I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but there's so many things to talk about. But there are challenges in hospitality, and it's either high staff turnover, obviously, as you said, inflation, high energy prices, and then on top of that, add all the expensive or clunky or outdated systems, and then add the hidden losses. So there's so many angles that we're touching here.
I think you answered the question, because what I wrote down, because I also, maybe it was a bit too open my question, but I actually think it really with you that is that stock taking is a killer and people don't like it. And nothing has changed from that, from when I started running restaurants in the early 2000s to now. This has always been a challenge to actually know the status quo of your stock taking. And even if you use external people, they don't know your business, so they don't know what they're looking for. So that's really, and then I really love that the idea around, because this is really where you can spend a lot of time, or somebody in accounting, or the assistant, whoever sits with this responsibility, matching up invoices and what being delivered. And normally what happens when things are delivered, because it has to go fast, the person just ticks off. If you would be able to see me, if you're listening in, I'm sitting and ticking off everything on that invoice. Yes, I ticked it off, put my name, even if everything was not there in a way. So again, that's really, really interesting. Then price increases, especially in times you live in, suddenly you haven't noticed that something has gone up 20%. You might need to consider, is that actually a price that I have accepted, or will I accept that? Or do I need to go and find a different product from a different supplier, or whatever it is? Maybe it's your coffee cups, your takeaway cups just gone up. So I love those. So I totally can see that. And then the silent killers, all the small things in between that creeps up to the big amounts. I really like that as well. So I think you really answered that really well. Because one thing I was thinking as well is that what is the key problem? Because there's no doubt about it. I looked at your platform, you solve a lot of different things, but what is like the key problem you're solving for the industry when you go in? Like, what is the Trojan horse you drive into these hospitality business, and where you can see there's a huge change? You talked about saving maybe 40 to 60% of time just doing stock keeping. Is that the thing you're solving for them primarily?
We are clearly saving them time and money, but one of the problems is the lack of processes, and this is also what kills businesses. And so sometimes it could be in our favor or not, because when you're thinking of changing an entire process, it becomes very heavy for businesses. They think that they don't have the time to change their processes because it's extremely time consuming, it's heavy, they need to bring people in, they need to increase their footfall, and that's where their focus is in. But it doesn't really take much time to change processes, because by implementing, for example, Growyze, which we come in and help businesses, it's very easy to just learn the basics of what you need to do. Order from suppliers, book in your deliveries, check on your invoices. Everything comes in a centralized place. Monitor your dishes and what the prices is. If the prices have increased from your suppliers, just ensure that you're making enough margin. So this is what you can monitor as well with our margin calculator. It's like, oh, because of the price of the meat, now this dish is not making me enough money, so I need to update my prices. So for me, it's processes, and it's not so complicated. As any business, if you want to grow and if you want to generate more revenue, you need to be very process driven. So this would be the main point I would make.
And I think also that comes back to, that builds business systems that can help you put those systems in place, processes you don't have, because I totally agree. And even in a startup context, actually getting momentum and processes and systems in place is one of the most important parts of the journey when sales really starts to get through, or else you start to lose money in a way. And I'd like, because you lose sales, you lose deliveries, you lose customers, and lots of people think they have processes and systems, but are they actually consistent in the way they act and the way the employees are using them? And I think that's really what's interesting with technology, what's always been fascinating for me, is that how can you actually get the heavy lifting to help with that in a way?
Yes. So going back to processes, you mentioned the very right word there, consistency or consistently. There needs to be a process and accountability from your staff members. So how do you ensure that you are providing a positive team culture or a positive behavior towards your business? Which if you create the right processes, and from the very early days you are implementing simplicity within your business, it makes a big difference. But going back to stock taking is something that we've seen with businesses, especially smaller businesses, that a lot of them are not doing any stock taking, or they are sitting there 24/7 in the business, 7 days a week, trying to monitor that their staff members are actually doing what they're doing. But because they don't have the right data, oh yes, again, John, for example, John is doing the ordering. Adam is doing this and that. And so what do you do in the business? Well, I'm sitting there to oversee the operations, but you don't know what is John ordering or what Adam is doing. So how do you know what's happening? And then you complain that, for example, you're not making enough money. But is it because, staff members are probably taking some bottles home? Or is it because, they're so comfortable in their areas that you're not bringing enough accountability to your staff members because they know that you're not seeing what's happening in the business. You're just simply overseeing blindly is not actually overseeing the reality, which is very difficult to face.
And it's quite interesting when I've been in business, especially when I was in McDonald's, was one of the most process-driven businesses in the world, and big part of the success and consistency in delivering the end product, but also the experience, both the customer and employees, is that when you know that these numbers are correct and you know they are important and it's part of the rhythm of the business, it's also much easier to keep people accountable and what it means, what success looks like in the different job roles. Because what you're talking about there, in my view, is also what is actually success in my job role. I'm just doing something here, and I just need to make sure there's enough. And actually, sometimes enough product is not always a success. Of course, there needs to be enough to attain the sales, but also understanding when enough is enough. You don't need 6,000 of these. You need 4,000 of these to deliver the sales, and so on and so on. So I just think it's really, really interesting where technology also can help with accountability within a business, because actually that's a big part of it. Are you actually accountable for what's in your job? Or is it actually possible to be accountable? Because you could also be unfairly kept account to something you don't really know the number on or could figure out.
Absolutely. You're very right, Michael.
What is some of the best use cases you've seen as you've gone in and worked with businesses? What has been some of the huge transformation that happens as day one? We start with Growyze, and then let's say 3 or 6 months later, what is like some of the really big achievement that's happened with these businesses as they become more process driven by using the platform?
Again, I'm probably becoming boring again, but it's seeing a process in place makes a big difference towards the financial health of the business, right? But what we've seen with our customers, we've built amazing case studies. What we've seen is something very, very simple as a feature, but ordering from your suppliers, it's something that has made a massive difference to our customers, because the way they used to do this is either by phone, by email, or by supplier platforms, where everything is just so scattered everywhere that nobody knows what's been ordered. I mean, how come you don't know what's ordered? Like, okay, so Adam, again, another name, Adam ordered, but then John is receiving the delivery next day, for example. So how would John know what Adam ordered? I mean, it's just one simple thing that makes such a big difference. And we are seeing amazing feedback from our customers that they're able to first have a digital trail of their orders and deliveries. And second, all the orders are in a centralized place, which again goes back to, the deliveries, the invoices. And again, it goes back to processes. So we've made a massive difference on our customers, positive impact on our customers with that single feature. Another thing that we are seeing, let's touch sustainability, for example. I mean, it's a simple feature, and a lot of platforms have this waste recording, which we are currently working on taking food waste and saving food waste at another level, which we'll talk about probably further on. But they're really our customers are really happy to be able to record waste because in the past this would go back to paper somewhere, and then how would you understand that this bottle of wine was wasted or broken because it wasn't sold? And then you don't have the visibility again of what's happening. Is it someone has stolen the bottle, or is what happened to it? Again, it comes back to the process. Ordering from suppliers, and which I mentioned, but the three-way invoice validation, the invoice reconciliation, has made a massive difference as well. Which in the very early days of our beta testing, we could see that in 2 weeks with 2 customers, we saved £400 out of discrepancies because price changes or products not delivered. I mean, this is at a very, very tiny scale. And this was still at the early days. We're gathering more statistics, which I'll be sharing soon enough. But it's the bigger the business, the more savings.
Yeah.
As we know.
But £400 is a lot on 2 weeks, right? Because that's a lot of food you need to sell and drinks to get to that.
Exactly. And this is only by catching those discrepancies. And then if some of the businesses are doing stock takes every week, so this is time that your staff members could spend with customers or doing something for their customers rather than doing stock taking on pen and paper and Excel spreadsheets, for example. So to count this, put it on a paper, and then go to the laptop or to the computer, put this on the Excel spreadsheet. I mean, why waste this time when you can focus on your customers? So the speed of stock taking has been very valuable as well. So this is where cutting a lot of time. And as I mentioned before, the streamlining of the communication between operations and accounting, this is saving a massive amount of time, admin time. Who likes doing admin? Nobody likes doing admin. So there's a few elements there, which, as we say, we close the loop between all those processes. And as you know, we also integrate with point of sale systems, with accounting softwares, and we sit in between doing all this magic with processes and helping businesses on their day-to-day basis. So more or less, it's this is where we're seeing a lot of impact. One other story comes back to one of our hotels. The food and beverage controller was spending 5 days on unnecessary manual data entry, going from this to that, putting things on paper and then spreadsheets, communication with this person and that person. He wanted to spend more time on decision making, on strategy, on how he can improve other areas of the business rather than spending time on manual data entry, which is so unnecessary. And he also wanted to spend more time with his family. So he wanted to reduce, instead of working in the business 5 days, he wanted to work less time. So now he's in the business not 5 days, but 3 days, only because we've saved so much of his time. And he can oversee a lot of the operations remotely. But we are giving a little bit more control, not even a little, full control, which is, we live in a digital era. So you can see everything on your mobile, on your desktop. You don't need to be on site
to check it up. Yeah. I think that is really, there's some insane changes there. And it's all about, as you say, create these digital processes that actually makes lives easier for making better decisions, and actually also following up a better way. Because I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking like that also for me, as if I'm the leader of a business, I actually stop asking questions that actually builds distrust, because the fact is the facts in a way, and we can just focusing on that, on either improving them or celebrating that we actually are in the right place. So when you start asking, so where's that? How does the number look for that? It always comes across that you distrust people, even if you're not in intent. So how many hours did you spend yesterday in operation? How much food waste did you have? How many orders went wrong? How many refunds did you? There's like a negative, request here, even though if you only think you just need to know to be able to run the business, it just become negative. Is then not on the screen. The facts is the facts, and we can have a conversation about, that's great, or how do we actually make sure today that we actually can we do anything to improve that? So you can ask some totally different questions. That was how I was thinking about, as you were improving your organization.
Yeah, a lot of people may feel intimidated by being asked so many questions when the first go-to question is like, but what are your thoughts on how can we improve?
Yeah.
So you feel better within the business, and you can do your job better. So it's
I know it was just a little thought for me, and I think I've often struggled with, because you had, as an ops director, you had to follow up on these key metrics, but often I could just feel that you either put people in a difficult situation if they didn't know the number and they didn't have time because there was 2 people off, so they just had to get the shop open. That was more important than, in principle, fill out some numbers in a spreadsheet, as you said, a static spreadsheet. And then you had to question, but is that the right number? And then the whole distrust thing comes up again. What is, talk a bit about, because there's no doubt about, the tech, we don't have to discuss that. Tech plays a crucial role in doing some heavy lifting in hospitality that can be very good for profitability. But talk a bit about the hard, I would say it's quite a hard process where you don't go to market and say, here's the platform, it's going to solve all your problems. You went to market saying, we have an idea, but our customers, we need to do this with our customers to understand what the right solution is. And you call it the customer-driven solution. Talk a bit about that and how that actually have made the platform more valuable as a result of that for the customers in general.
So what exactly is the question? How did we become so customer-centric?
No, I think not so much customer-centric, that they choose to build the platform from the customers into the platform, not from, here's a platform that's going to solve all your problems, from the platform out to the customers, because there's 2 different approaches there, and building from the customer's side is a longer process, I'm just guessing, I know, than it is to say, we are the experts, here's the platform, go and use it.
I mean, that would be a totally, what would be the right word? That would be totally unrealistic to build a platform that I think is the best for you. You're the customer, you have the challenges. So I come to you, you tell me what the challenges are, and then how can we make your life easier? That's the whole point. And I would often say, why have a problem? Why run a business if we are not helping you out in any way? But when we started building the platform in 2020, we built it on Kati's experience, but we started building it with the experience she had. So we knew in depth the pain points that she had. So we built a solution based on the pain points she had back in time. Then once we went into beta testing, we were on site nearly every day with our customers. It wouldn't matter, early in the morning, late in the evenings. We would be there all the way through to understand what additional challenges they have, because okay, so we're solving these pain points, but you actually have pain points here and here and here. So how can we make this better for you and make your life easier? Because this is the main point of Growyze. How can we help you run your businesses better, and how can we help you focus on your customers rather than go back of house and spend all your time doing admin or doing, you know, very slowly you're stock taking or you're losing money here and there. And we often see, managers, as you said something earlier, managers are just far too focused on like running and doing unnecessary things when they can spend more time on making strategic decisions or improving the business.
Yeah.
And why focus on admin? But in terms of how we started, the product was on the pain points Kati had, and then we got beta testers, spent a lot of time on site with them, from smaller to larger businesses. But we started with smaller, only to understand that larger businesses have even bigger pain points. Um, and it's and to nowadays, we're still working extremely closely with our customers. We speak to them every single day. What is not working? Why is it not working? How can we improve this? And then we prioritize clearly what is something that everyone is facing as a challenge, and we are here to fix it.
Yeah, and I guess have you seen that has been a harder journey to do it that way? Because of course there's a lot of stakeholder management that comes from that, and everybody thinks their problems are the most important problems, and they think can you just build that or do that? I mean, is that harder to do when you are curating the platform? Because I guess you're also building a platform that works for the majority of operations, not for the few.
Yeah, so we are prioritizing based on the majority, but there's a replication of challenges most of the time. It's taken us a while to build something which is very extremely useful at the moment, and we have a phrase, a testimonial from one of our beta testers and customers. If you've heard of whistle punks. So the MD back then said, Growyze is so easy to navigate. It removes all the noise you find with other providers. This has been one of the sentences that has taken Growyze to the next level. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. And not only for the management team, but for all the staff members on the shop floor. How do we keep this simplicity as we grow is not so easy, but it's very important to keep the platform as easy to use as possible. And this has been a massive driving force for us. It's changing the game because we are providing all the essential data, which is very straightforward, very easy to use. And sometimes you will hear from our customers, we only want to see this. We don't want all the other noise. We don't have that much time to look at very complex reporting. We want this. Can you do this for us? Yep, here it is. And we keep this simplicity.
Yeah, I think that's really like, as we, have to accept we are navigating in a much more complex world, and therefore our businesses becomes much more complex. Exactly what you need help with is where technology, and I think you said it very nicely, has to simplify those decision-making processes on a daily, weekly, monthly level. And then there's time for complex thinking when you talk about strategy, but you can only think about strategy if there's order in house, and what you're looking at is the real picture. It's not a made up picture on a spreadsheet, because then you start to make some really bad strategic decision. Done this myself, by the way, so I know that. What as you as a business owner as well, because you've been building a business since 2019, taking it through the pandemic. We don't want to touch so much on that. That's a tough time for everyone. But what have been some of the most significant learnings, building your own business, trying to build a platform that's values to customers? What is the biggest learning you come out as an individual founder of yourself out of this?
There have been a lot of learnings. In as any business, you face challenges on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've been trying to adapt to is every company has its own journey, because, you see a lot of different companies out there. And it's very important to remember you have your own journey, focus on the customer, solve their challenges, and then everything goes sustainably. This is a major, major thing that the whole team has been adapting to. Focus on your own journey. As well as a business leader, you need to surround yourself with a lot of good people, knowledgeable people, a support network, or we call them a tribe, ambassadors, who
Yeah.
are always there for you. You can always ask for advice. You can always ask for an external, outsider perspective, because sometimes you're so focused on a day to day, like, our own customers, that we don't see beyond that. Unless someone comes in and asks you a question, oh, so why exactly are you doing this? Well, because, and then you need to open up your mind and accept the different perspectives, and obviously make your choice what's best for you. But being open-minded as a business leader and having a very clear focus is crucial for your business.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. It's interesting you talk about the ability, in a way to focusing on what's right here and now, and actually then dive out and see with clarity the direction you're going to. And you can only do that if you have the right people on the team, if that's, advisors or normal team members or employees, and that ability to have the right people on the bus, it will be okay. It's not about strategy. It's not about funding. It will be okay. You will get there. And I love the way you talked about focusing on your own journey. I see often, and I'm prisoner of this myself, where you look at, the other ones, they're so successful. What are they doing? Because they raised so much money, or they have these people on board, and because they can get on TV because they know somebody. And actually, you can't do anything about that. What you can do about is just focusing on your own journey and take care of one thing at a time very, very well. And don't try to be something else. Be what you are, in principle, both as an individual, but also as a company. And I think often we forget that, because we say company does deliver the same product. We are one for one, and we are not. It's like two different journeys, different founders, different philosophies. And actually, you need to lean into that as a competitive edge. I love that learning. I love that. And we often forget that. We focus so much on competition, not is what's really special about our journey.
But, competition will always be there. Thanks God. You need competition. And I was saying the other day to someone, competition drives innovation. And, the more competition you have, the better for the customers, because they would get better prices, better products. Everything is better for the customer. And ultimately, this is where we're all striving for, deliver something that is useful for the customer. Keep on the competition thriving.
Yeah, and I think that's very much. I have a couple more questions before we finish off here, Eddie. Is that so? What would your top advice be to other leaders that's building a business as a force for good? A business that actually makes significant change in the world. You just talk about as competition. There's a positive element of competition, which is actually making everybody better, and therefore we get better solutions. But what would be your top advice to business leaders out there?
It depends probably on their growth journey and how when they started, because if you are further down the line in terms of your journey, you've learned a lot. But let's maybe stick to smaller businesses where I'm in touch with a lot of founders, and we often talk about challenges, but at the same time successes. One thing to accept and to nurture as a leader is your resilience and your stubbornness. You need to be very stubborn. You need to keep going regardless of what's happening. But this is one, because there's a threshold of you keep a business going and it would plateau, it will go flat at some point, and a lot of businesses wouldn't be able to cross that barrier. And all you need to do is just keep going, because there's always a way, but you need to keep pushing. And it's one of our motto is keep pushing. You can never quit, because if you have something useful for your customers, if you're making their lives easier, there will always be a way. Just keep pushing. Don't quit, because we all know that running a business could have a massive impact on first your health and well-being, your mental health. You can often the leaders or founders in general would go burnout. So how do you keep this working without getting into that position? It's not easy. But we were speaking earlier, Michael, with you that it's very important to have a cutoff. Also spend time with your loved ones. Ensure you have time for yourself. Ensure that you're being healthy, because ultimately, when you're doing this, you can be 100% focused on your business. It may not be 20 hours, 24 hours, but if you are, let's say, focused 10 hours, you're extremely focused, and then you can have time for you, for your kids, for your family, for your friends. But it is extremely important. And I think a lot of founders are finding that very, very difficult. A lot of founders I meet, they don't have friends anymore unless it's the startup community. They're not okay mentally. They're extremely burnt out. Because they're constantly fundraising, which also puts a lot of pressure on their mental health and confidence. And it's facing rejection is not easy for anyone in any part of your life, professional, personal. It's tough out there. So keep pushing, I would say.
Yeah, and counterbalance that with, as you said, like you need to set these cutoff times. It's really interesting. You said the thing about friends, and I've heard others saying that I don't have time to have friends. And it's like a thing I can see myself. I really have to remind myself of. They're not going to be there if you don't put in the effort, because you can be so. And it's not about passion or willingness to work. It's actually sometimes passion can take over so much that you actually can be working constantly, because you're so ingrained in creating this thing you're building, because it is the thing. It doesn't have an end day often. It's like some people say, oh, there's an exit at some point, but you don't know when that exit is. It could be 3 years, it could be in 10 years, it could be in 20 years, or maybe not be there. So it's like that also accepted that you have to live healthy within that rhythm, because you are, in the end of the day, you're a human being, and if you get very ill, then everything disappears overnight in principle. And
exactly.
And I think that's a great. I saw an example the other day. Somebody I know who was actually on the outside very successful person, and then now he's very ill with an unhealable cancer, and he's just exiting all these great things he's building overnight. And I think he has also been he writes in this beautiful, he sent around, like, remember there's only one life, and don't get consumed about anything, work or whatever it is that takes you away from your loved one and your family, because you only have very short time with them. And it's like and it made me reflect as well as a business owner. Think, okay, do I actually invest enough in that? Do I actually need to rebalance that? And I think you said it really well. And I think it's really a good reminder to us. We're doing an important thing, but we can't keep on doing that if we collapse in principle or get ill. And we need to do everything that's right. And it doesn't mean that working had made him ill, but it was just, again, a reminder of, like, life is short. So make sure you get all elements equally balanced out. Life is not only business. It's much more than that.
But it's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
But how difficult it is to maintain balance. It requires a lot of discipline, which is come from.
Yeah.
And the awareness that there's more to life than just work. You may be building something really exciting, and you may be there for your customers, but who who would be the tribe, the personal tribe that you want in your life and will always be there in your life. And, it's either it's your bubble of family and friends. And over time you have less friends and, and less family. And you need to make sure that you focus on those elements. And because life is so short, you need to ensure that you spend enough quality time. With your loved one.
Yeah, that was a good reminder. Just made me reflect as well. So yeah, that was a beautiful thing. One more question before we finish up, Eddie, because this is one of my favorite questions to ask. So, what is the one question? Because we never have, no matter who is the guest, there's never enough time to ask enough questions. But what is the one question you wish I'd asked you? What would it be, and what would you answer?
Okay, that's a very good question. One of the questions that always I come back to is the name of the company. Because even you would struggle to say, okay, so is it Growyze, Growyze, what is it? And then we often end up explaining to anyone, okay, so it's Growyze. Why Growyze? Is Growyze as overseeing operations, and Growyze is growing wiser because you collect all that data, which helps you in decision making. So that's one that's it's on top of my mind. But I'm sure there's so many other questions which we don't really have much time for.
Why did you settle on that? Like you said, like growing wise with your operation. What was it that made you think that's because I guess the mission of the business lies within that as well. That was what I was thinking when you told me that's the name of the company.
By the way, I wasn't part of deciding the name. Kati came to me with that name, and she was like, "I want to create this. Will you help me?"
Yeah.
Growyze, and then clearly I had to understand why Growyze, and then it was all about again, overseeing the operations, help grow businesses, and it all comes back to help them grow and be more profitable.
And I love that because again, as you're mastering your business, you're also a wiser person. You talk about wisdom is really mastery in a way. And I love that. And I suddenly got a totally different, understanding of what is that you're trying to do. So yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. I should have asked you that earlier. but I really love because it ties it all together about the processes. Because if you get, it's a bit like habits in life. People that knows they have personal habits, when they repeat them, they get wise on themselves because repeating and doing something consistent is one of the most beautiful things you can do because then you really understand it in the end. And that's wisdom in a way we take with us. Good. So what a beautiful place to end the conversation. Where can people find out more about you and connect with you and learn more about Growyze? Where's the right place to go?
First point of contact clearly is our website, www.growyze.com. But Growyze, let's spell it GROWYZE.com. We try to keep our website quite informative for anyone who wants to have a quick look. They can get in touch with me via email as well, adi@growyze.com, or I'm always there for a quick chat on LinkedIn as well. Always happy to speak to anyone, whether it's potential customers, whether it's potential partners, because without a very good network of partners and having a great network of collaborations, businesses cannot thrive. That's another topic. So always happy to chat to anyone.
Great, Adi. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I'll send you and Kati power and energy to drive the business forward and make more possible impact in the hospitality industry and close that gap so we don't have to mind it. So just it's closed.
Mind the gap.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, so much. Thank you.